Let's launch in here. We have a colleague from Columbus Gifted Academy, Julie Crosby, that hopefully will be able to also stop in. And as Kathy said, we have some other folks that are part of the group that just ran into a last minute issue with today. So we'll go forward. We wanted to start out and just have everybody introduce themselves, tell others in the group. I know many of you probably know each other, but it's possible that not everybody knows everyone. So indicate who you are, where you are teaching, what your assignment is, how many years teaching experience you have, and also just why the heck you chose to spend time this way. Why are you with us for this experience? So just at random, Laura, you want to start?
Yeah, hi, I'm Laura Tobin. I'm one of the art teachers here at Hastings. I have been, it's my 18th year teaching in the district. And I do need some credit to renew my license, but I've also heard this is a fantastic course and that you two are so much fun to work with.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And because you haven't spent time with us before, and because our screen says Kathy, that's Kathy and I'm Ellen.
Okay.
Okay. Hi, Andrea, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Andrea Brown. I teach kindergarten at Greensview. I was at Tremont last year, and this is my 9th year teaching. I've taught all around in the Midwest and also in China.
Oh,
so,
wow.
I'm also taking this to help renew my teaching license. But I also heard from a lot of people from Greensview who've taken this course in the past, and I asked them about it, and they said definitely take it. So I'm excited.
Yeah.
For me too.
You have a wonderful group of folks at Greensview that are very, very dedicated to this, and we love working with them. Many of them are in our other class that's operating simultaneously. So you'll be with a group where you have a lot of support. That'll be great. Catherine.
Hi, everybody. I am Catherine Shapiro. I am one of the school counselors at Hastings. This is my, I don't even know, I think 17th year at Hastings, 16th maybe, but my 30th year overall. So I've been in education for a while. And I am retaking the class because I am our buildings service learning leader. And I just want to go through it again from the beginning because I think our staff is starting to turn over. When I started in the district, we were the oldest staff in the district. And so we're getting so many new people in. I just want to go through this course again to make sure that I'm being as helpful and resourceful to our new staff members who are taking it this year and next. So that's why I'm in again.
All right, we're glad to have you.
And you know, we learn a lot through these courses as well, and I understand what you say about turning over, but we're so impressed. Janet Daubenmeyer and Janice Daubenmeyer and Elizabeth Blank are in our other course that we're teaching right now, and we showed the old. Don't tell Loretta I said this, but the old video of Lost Boys of Sudan. And we were aware that it had also taken hold at the high school for a number of years. And after the class, Janice sent us what Hastings has done with Lost Boys of Sudan. And what a wonderful project. And I think that's hopefully part of what we can do is start to lift up some of these things that are going on that maybe we don't know about or haven't heard. There's just a lot of good stuff going on, even now.
Mm-hmm. Just to reassure everybody else, Catherine did pass the course this summer. She's not in here for remediation, honestly. Deb?
I'm Deborah Amling. I'm a instructional leader for the district. Most of the time work with just elementary, but it's getting stretched lately to middle school and a little bit to high. So everybody on the screen, but Laura, I know and have spent time working with her, trying to help in some way. So if Catherine says she's been teaching 30 years, that probably puts me at like 28 because I took 2 years off after Jack. So I've got 28 years in. And I am not taking the class for credit because I actually renewed in July and already have the credits to renew again in 5 years because I just graduated with my doctorate in August. So I do not need credit at all, but I do have a hand in at the district level with working on the learner profile and a whole bunch of things that these ladies are involved in. And so I'm auditing both of their classes and sitting in and participating where I can, because I just believe really strongly in service learning. And a little added tweak, Jeannie Gogolski was my 5th grade teacher. So if you want to understand where service learning and my experience started, it was with Jeannie as a 5th grader. So I just want to make sure that we keep service learning front and center in UA schools.
Well,
thank you.
And I'm so happy, Deb, you're in this. And, you know, most of what we do is really with working with teachers, but for a district who really has this as a priority strategy, to have instructional coaches and others who are all on the same page with the teachers, that there are things, we'll talk a little bit about this during the course, but there are things that a school district can do to not make the teachers feel like they're pulled in a million directions. And so this is wonderful, Deb, to have you as a part of this.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thrilled to join you.
Well, and for the folks in the room that have been with UA for fewer than 20 years, really, you may not realize that I bleed black and gold and was a teacher there and then an administrator for 20 years. So my connections to service learning in the district go back a long, long time.
And I was a trader. I worked for Worthington. I was an administrator at Worthington schools, but my children went here. So
Yeah.
all through Barrington and Jones and Upper Arlington High School.
We still like you, don't worry.
Kelly. Kelly went in. Yeah, there you go.
Hi, I'm Kelly Ledarski. I teach 2nd grade at Windermere. This is only my 3rd year with UA schools, but my 10th year teaching. I took some time off when my boys were young to stay home for a few years. I'm taking this class for the service or for credit, but also just to learn about different ways and opportunities to bring service learning into my students' lives.
Terrific. Great. Jody?
So I'm Jody Blair and I teach at Wycliffe. I'm in a 4-5 loop and this year I have 5th graders. And I have taught, I was trying to figure it out, maybe 25, 26 years. I can't remember exactly. The pandemic has really thrown me for a loop. And I'm taking this class because I've been wanting to take it. And a lot of times it was offered in the summer and I wasn't available to really make the commitment in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And so I saw this offered during the year and I thought I can commit, especially during a pandemic too. I'm available at night. My kids don't have the commitments that they normally do. So I was excited. We have some teachers here that actively pursue great service learning projects year after year and have built some strong relationships with Heart to Heart and other areas. And in the past, I've found that a lot of our service learning experiences have been the most worthwhile experiences for my classes. And I feel like I haven't really jumped into one in a long time, and I'm ready to really renew that spark.
That's great. I have 2 observations. First of all, add this to the very short list of things that are good about the pandemic. That's number one. Well, I forgot the other one, which is a sign that I turned 70 in November. You can tell sometimes. Sorry, it'll come back to me.
Yeah, 3 in the morning probably.
Michelle, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, I'm Michelle Crandall, and I am a teacher at Barrington. I teach 4th grade, and this is my, I think, 24th year in education and my 20th year at Barrington. I'm taking this class because I'm interested in service learning. I'm also taking the other class as well at the same time, and also for credit too, for some extra hours. But I am excited to learn more about this course, and yeah.
Good. Good. Julie, glad you made it there, kiddo. Tell everybody where you're from and what you teach and how long you've been teaching and what you're doing here, kiddo.
And you're muted.
You're muted, Jules.
Times a day, it's not even funny. I'm Julie Crosby. I teach at the Columbus Gifted Academy. I teach 4th grade. We just got news that we're going back February 8th. So we just got that email. So here we go. But I have been teaching for 26 years and I've been in gifted now 14 years. So more than I taught regular. So I really am enjoying that. And I'm here because I keep getting interrupted in the middle of my projects. So I want to finish this one. I want to do a whole project.
Okay, good. Good.
Because it seems like every year something's happened to me or well, us for this past year, but yeah.
Good.
So I'm excited to be back and try to get something completely finished.
You will. We have faith in you.
Good.
So we want you, before we go too much further with discussion in small groups, we would like for you to make sure you've got something to write with and you've got some paper nearby. And those of you that are also in the other course will notice that this is a similar activity, but we like to begin this way for a really good reason. Would you think for a moment about your mission as an educator? Why'd you choose this line of work, and what are the most important things to you to accomplish with kids? And jot down the keywords and phrases that you would connect to that. We're not looking for a formal mission statement. We're just looking for what are the main elements that speak to your teacher heart. Why are you in this business other than liking kids, beyond that? And then the other thing that we'd like you to work, also think about and make a few notes about, thinking about some of the best days that you ever spent working with kids. What were the characteristics of those times? How were the kids acting? How were you feeling? We're not asking you to write down what you were doing specifically, but rather, what was it about what was happening that made those days among your best? Okay, so you're writing down mission related things and best days related things. Just give you a moment to jot those notes. Okay, so you'll still have a chance to add to that little list. That is not something that is complete yet, but we ask you to do that first because we know that you're going to relate to this course experience through that lens. At least we hope you will, because we really believe that if you go through a professional development experience and you end up finding out that it has nothing to do with your mission, it has nothing to do with helping you have more of your best days, you are probably going to forget about it very, very soon and toss the lessons out the window. They are not going to have relevance for you. So we'd love for people to keep their own mission, their own best days front and center in their thinking always. And that everything that we send your way, you should bounce that against your own personal rubric of what makes teaching most meaningful for you and learning most meaningful for kids. We're confident that what we do together is going to fit in there somewhere. And for many of you, it's going to be a really tight, wonderful fit. But it's valid, it's important, it's critical really for you to realize that this experience that we're going to go through together is not about the Kathy and Ellen show. It's about each of you and hopefully adding to your toolbox in a way that is meaningful. Kathy's going to point out to you a little bit more about our objectives for this experience, and then we'll get you into groups real quick.
I think, as you talk about, think about your own mission and what really made a difference with kids when magic was going on in the classroom. Our goal, especially over the last 4, 5, 7 years, has been to move from individual teachers' mission and vision to helping schools and school districts develop a shared vision of what education should look like in their school district. And the pandemic is kind of the worst case scenario of people trying to keep their eye on what that shared vision is. Those of you from Upper Arlington, I think you'll remember last, I don't know, February or so, when we did the best days activities and the kid figure activities in your building. Each of your buildings did that. And that was really about building a shared vision that everybody could kind of row the boat in the same direction. And service learning was certainly came out strongly in those activities. So our goal for this course, we didn't want to wait until the pandemic was over to keep a focus on true deep learning and instruction that really makes a difference with kids and with teachers. And so we offered this in the summer and this past summer, and our focus was really on how could you do service learning even in a distance learning or a remote situation, that you still have all the goals of wanting kids to have strong academics and social emotional development. And are there ways to really approach that even if you're not face to face? So we're pivoting a little bit because hopefully people are going to go back, whether it's full-time face-to-face or hybrid, and hopefully that will continue. So we're going to talk about service learning in general and a little bit about what do you do if come Monday you're in remote? Do you just stop that? So to our great surprise in starting that this summer, we didn't know what to expect because we had never taught a class like this. And whether we would be able to master Zoom and Google Classroom at our age was an interesting experience. But some of the benefits, our goal really was to build a class where teachers could collaborate with one another to design great work. And that was, I think, for people, if it wasn't even service learning, I think people's experience this summer was that they love the collaboration part. We also wanted to create service learning projects that could be available for other people. They would be so well designed step by step of how to do it, that if you weren't in the class and there was a bank of these projects, you could really understand what the teacher was trying to accomplish. And so we've got probably 30 to 40 projects from last summer that are going to, if they're not already, are going to be on Upper Arlington's website. And then we're going to share them with other people who are in our classes and other people who are interested. And so I think that the real goals are developing good work that doesn't kill you. We promise you that this will be easier than maybe it seems like at the beginning. We have never had better projects designed than we had this summer.
That's the truth.
And teachers at the end of it, they said the best part of it was, especially in the breakout sessions, being able to work with other teachers and bounce ideas off of people. So, you know, I hate the pandemic. I'm sorry we're not face to face. But there was a benefit with teachers at the end of the class session not getting up and leaving and maybe not working together until they were back in class the next time. So those are our goals, really, is just to provide as stress-free a situation as possible. We will put everything in our Google Classroom. Maybe the most stressful thing for you is actually joining the Google Classroom the first time. I won't name names. But everything will be there. And so I think the access to the resources will be much easier than they've been in face-to-face classes. and we will work with you on this design. We want to make sure when we talk about what our expectations are. We had some people who had their entire project done at the end of the last class session in the summer, and some that we got 3 months later. And that's okay. So relax, take a breath. We know this is a rough time, but I think you'll be very proud of the work that you accomplished by the end of this.
Yep, I think so too. And absolutely, just to reinforce that, your project plans are absolutely not due at the time of the last session. They're due when they're done. Okay.
They're due when you need your Ashland credit or your
Yes.
CEU.
Yeah.
But I can attest that Ashland will, they accepted somebody's work from 2 years ago. A person had taken a class with us 2 years ago and contacted me and said, is it too late to get credit? And I said, no, it won't be. So I know you won't take 2 years to do it, but when you're ready, it'll be done.
Okay, any questions in terms of what we said so far at all? All right, great. We are going to have you chat with each other a little bit more directly about your own mission, about the characteristics of your best days. And we'd like you to do two things. One is, of course, have that conversation. And the other is that to go into chat while you're in breakout and jot down in chat some of the key things that you have been recording about your mission and your best days. And what will happen is then when we come back and everybody looks at the chat together, you'll see everybody's items, and we can look at patterns and see what else we might want to add. You're going to be in very small groups. You're going to be in pairs. And so this should only take about 6 or 7 minutes. So you'll get a timer. We'll tell you that you have 1 minute left, and then we'll see you in about 7 minutes. All right.
Any questions before I send you off to your room?
All right. Go to your room, girls. Welcome back, everyone. All right, so what I'm looking at is an empty chat, so I'm not sure if you all had an opportunity to actually put a few highlights in there. So as an alternative to that, I'm going to ask you to think about some of what you and your partner had in common, or some of the things that came out the most predominantly. Mention just a few, and Kathy's going to type in chat so we begin to build a list of highlights. So somebody unmute and start us off. What are a few of the things you noted?
I think our chat must have been deleted on the breakout because Jody typed everything in. So I don't know.
Oh gosh, okay.
In the
It's on
breakout.
my chat. It says Jay Blair to everyone. So it's typed. I don't know if I can send it to you. It says down below, it says file. And then
Probably. Just send it to me later. Just I'll put in, and then we'll add to it after you send it to me.
Tell us some of what you built in there, though.
Okay, so with us for the mission, we talked about how relationships are so important and key. That we want our kids and to teach kids how to be curious, passionate, and problem solvers. And then for our best days, there needed to be joy within the day, interactions, and that element of like when they discover something new. And then also we said for the kids to be engaged, they're learning to be authentic, they're invested, and not wanting to stop.
Okay, and so do you think you're describing the way school is just about every day, or only sometimes, or what's your feeling about frequency there?
So when I think about my stuff, it's not every day. And honestly, I would hope to have it a few times a year, but I'd be lucky if it's once a year, like that, where they
totally this authentic study comes out and everyone's engaged, and so kind of sad to say.
Well, it's not sad, but I think it's also one of the things we can really address while we're together here is it the authenticity that leads to the engagement?
Mm-hmm.
And if it does, one of our goals is to help you look at, it doesn't necessarily have to be a big old service learning project, but if there's an authentic audience or an authentic product, does that lead to more engagement?
Right.
If kids are solving problems, are they more invested? Those are the kinds of things, is how we can add those pieces to the puzzle.
Right. So I guess if I think about it that way, on, the smaller scale day to day, yes, kids are invested and engaged. I guess maybe that authenticity is what kind of comes to mind, is when, a project evolves when you're not really expecting it and you kind of take off with it.
Okay, good. All right, so looking at the words that you see in chat so far, what are some other ones that some of you talked about that were missing? What would you like to add? I bet you had a lot in common, though. Probably a lot of the same elements.
That's what I was going to say. Kelly and I talked, it sounds like a lot of the same conversation. We talked a lot about relationships. We talked about aha moments. We talked about light bulbs coming on, like for our best days, like when the kids have been lost, and all of a sudden they're like, oh. And we talked about, I'm really into relationships with kids. So I have kids that are in middle school now, because we have them in our school from 3rd to 8th grade. So I have kids that are in middle school that are now coming to me to help them because they don't know how to do this virtual learning. So I think that those connections, and our principal keeps reminding us, like, this time of year, what's going on right now, the most important thing is that they feel connected to you and that they have a place to be safe. So I think that's kind of what but the relationships and the connections was the big thing.
All right, terrific. Anybody else? What would you like to add?
Before we leave safe place, there's a couple of ways to look at that, is that sometimes their home life is not safe, but also a safe place can be a place where kids aren't afraid to make a mistake. And so we have teachers talk about that a lot. And that's not always easy for us to do with kids, to let them make those mistakes. Okay.
And anything else folks want to add from your own discussion that you don't see? Well, that's a good way to begin. That is a very good start. Okay, so the next question then is, we asked you prior to coming to class today to choose from 3 items that we provided. There was a video about an Alzheimer's project, a video about creating portraits for children overseas, for orphans. And there was an article about a traumatic brain injury project that was done in Columbus at the middle school level. So hopefully everybody chose something to take a look at. Some of you may have looked at more than one item, but I'd like you to reflect for just a second on whatever it was that you reviewed, whatever project it was that you were taking a look at, and what connections can you make to that project and what you saw or read about it, and these words that we just plugged into chat together? What connections do you see?
I'll jump in. I know the one I did preview all 3, but the one I thought of right away was the Alzheimer's fidget blankets. And I loved how the teacher used that word ripples. Like, it was just throwing that pebble in and then the ripple effect. And I feel like that kind of connects with just that, like, that curiosity and passion. I don't know, that's just a connection I made right away.
Good. Other folks, from what you looked at or experienced, what connections would you make?
One of the things that I was thinking about was also that same project with the fidget blankets. I think sometimes teachers, educators, we get in our heads what we think the project's going to look like or what we think the result will be.
Yeah.
And many times in that project, things took a swift left or right turn, or things changed partway through. And in many cases, the students were able to discuss, create, and come up with different options. And that's especially eye-opening to me because the students were so young. You know, we often think we have to give students all these tools, and oftentimes if we just start them on the path, they can do so much more, at least for me, so much more than I can plan sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's a really wonderful point. And I think it's the difference between when we think of a service learning project, we think about the fidget blankets. And really, her project began at the beginning of the year when she chose literature books that had to do with older adults and Alzheimer's. She was going to teach reading anyway. She was going to choose books. And the fact that the kids knew that there was down the road, which actually didn't happen until the next school year. There's no part of me that doesn't believe that they weren't more engaged in their reading because they knew what the authentic application was going to be. And so there are some things that can take, I'm sure, I don't think she knew at the beginning they were going to do fidget blankets. But she did know she was going to teach reading and chose books that helped us support the kids' understanding and knowledge of that topic or issue.
I want to ask you a question about the memory project, the one about the portraits. Just raise your hand or wave if you've seen that one either in the past week or any time in the past. Okay. So when you saw this for the first time, whenever the first time may have been, what was your reaction to the quality of the portraits? Were they amateurish things done by school kids and just slapped together, or were they, do you think, professional looking portraits?
As the art teacher.
So I was going to say artwork that wasn't kids, or kids that were specialized in art, maybe high school kids. I would never have said they're regular high school kids. They're just taking art, you know.
Okay. The reason that I asked that is that I'm guessing that on your best days, even though we don't have this on the list yet, you had these very positive social emotional outcomes that you have identified, and you had the curiosity, but you probably also had a very good level of achievement in terms of what you expected within the curriculum. Am I right?
Laura, you were going to say something as an art teacher.
Well, that one was probably my favorite. I did look at all of them today, and it just gave me some really great ideas. I had done service learning with my middle schoolers, but because I teach a quarter rotation, it gets hard to do like a big overarching project that runs the course of the year. And when I saw that one, I was like, that's really interesting, because I've taught portrait drawing before, and the concept of knowing that, or telling the children that what they were going to be making was going to be given to somebody else that would really treasure it. I thought that was a great idea, and I thought I could even implement something like that. Maybe not that exact same concept, maybe keep it a little bit more local.
Sure.
They know that it's going to somebody who's really going to love it and value it. It might change the way they go about creating the artwork.
Absolutely.
I'm so glad that you said that. We when we go over the model, and many of you are already familiar with the model that we have for a project plan, but I think the one thing we've really tried to emphasize, because PBL does authentic products, and they often have audiences who see the kids' work, adults who, they do a demonstration and so forth. And what we find teachers saying is just what you said, Laura. When kids feel that their work product is going to somebody who needs it, it's a whole different thing. and we had a high school teacher in Columbus that has been doing that project for a number of years.
Was trying to, through that reference, make sure that we realize that you can have the relationship piece and the relevance piece and also have the rigor piece. And when they're all woven together, you've got the best of all worlds. And so seeing kids achieve at a higher level, have them value their work with pride because they know they're doing it for a compelling reason. It's important to them differently than so-called regular schoolwork. What other observations would you like to make about the article on traumatic brain injury or either of the other two videos that you saw? What stood out for you? What struck you about those examples?
I might comment also on the art piece too,
Uh-huh.
is when you saw the video of them receiving their piece and the joy on their faces.
Yep.
I feel like that can translate to our kids. These are kids that find such joy in receiving this piece of art, which is a portrait of them, whereas our kids have so much that they might not, they find joy in other ways, but just to realize that this art piece that they made brought so much joy to the recipient.
Right. And because it gives them a sense of personal identity and legacy, which they completely lack. In that project, Ben Schumacher would not have known that the most necessary thing for the orphans was some reflection of identity. He wouldn't have known that had he not established a really strong relationship with the orphanage, with the leadership there. Likewise, in Pam's project with the Alzheimer's Association, the role that that community sponsor, Jason Abity, played in making that a really high level project is really important. And so that will help you understand why we'll ask everybody when you're thinking about project possibilities to also think about if you need a partner, and if so, making sure that you connect with people who can keep you in touch with the authentic need, because that's a really important piece as well. Anything else you want to note about the examples that you had? I want to tell you one other thing before we move on, and that is that in the article about traumatic brain injury, this information is purposely not included because the teacher did not want the kids to be stigmatized in any way. But I think you'll agree when you look at that project, it seems very exceptional, and you might jump to the assumption that, oh, those are high achieving kids, or that's the gifted class or whatever. That project was done by all the identified non-readers and reluctant readers in the 8th grade at that inner city school. So it was the kids who struggled the most who pulled that off. And that's a really important perspective to have, because we have seen the power of this in all kinds of environments. And sometimes it's easy to think that, well, that might work in certain places, but not everywhere. And the examples that you had really came from very different kinds of situations.
Just one other point too that I'd like to make is that one of the things that teachers always tell us, and Pam Bergen at Tremont, when her second graders, her first graders were in the 2nd grade, and it was like they had just done the project the day before. They remembered everything. And so bottom line for anything we do with working with kids is we want learning that lasts. And in this busy time, you're pulled in so many directions. We really need to look at how can we accomplish more than one thing at a time without killing you. And so the memory project kids, I taught 7th grade world geography and history. I'm sure I had a unit or a section on Nicaragua. My kids remembered it for the test. I'm guessing the kids who've done that project with Ben Shoemaker would be able, even though it was an art project, we'll never forget where Nicaragua is. And we'll follow that, as are Pam's kids that are readers because they were accomplished. And Pam Reed's kids showed up to school every day. while they were working. That was a different thing. And so even though we are trying to do more than one thing at a time, we're convinced it can help us save time in the long run. And when you become convinced of that, our work will be done.
All right, we are going to move to a little brief information piece, which I think you need in order to begin to do some thinking about your own possibilities. So I'm hoping that you have access either in hard copy or on your computer to the handouts for today. So I'd like you to shoot to page 4 for a moment. And it looks like this. It has a definition of service learning at the top and a definition of project-based learning at the bottom. Everybody in the ballpark there? Okay, now, one thing to understand about our approach to this, project-based learning is a bigger umbrella than service learning. So if you think about PBL as a large umbrella for a lot of different types of authentic experiences that mirror work in the real world, service learning fits within that and is really distinguished by its intention that whatever is being done or created by the kids is going to be useful to somebody else. So it's to meet an authentic need. We like to think of service learning as PBL with TLC. There are a lot of PBL projects that are really excellent learning experiences, but they may or may not have the social emotional learning emphasis that service learning always will by definition. So if you're looking for a way for an experience to be authentic and to address the curriculum, but also address some of the goals that you have in social emotional learning, then service learning is a really soft place to land. That's a good place to be within that bigger umbrella. That I think will be reinforced. I'm going to give you just about 2 minutes to read the 2 definitions. And if you would, read the one on PBL first. So read the bottom definition first, then read the one on service learning. And I think you'll see how one fits within the other. Okay. Take a look at those if you would. Okay, now when you finish the first reading, I want you to do one other thing. And you can pick any 2 phrases that you want, but I want you to look for 2 phrases, and you can use either definition or both, but underline at least 2 phrases that you think are extremely consistent with your own mission. All good? All right, I'm going to go real quickly just so you can hear each other. Just say out loud the 2 things that you chose. Catherine.
Build character and active citizens.
All right, Andrea, what'd you pick?
Working together for a common goal and student interest.
All right, fabulous. Laura.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Apply their knowledge in support of their neighbors and community. And oh gosh, I was just about to highlight it. Oh no, I lost it. Engage students' interest and motivation. Sorry.
All right, terrific. Kelly.
Authentic learning activities and engage students' interest and motivation.
Terrific. Julie.
Meeting needs of their community. I think that was the thing that really stuck out. And then I said apply their knowledge.
All right, great. Deb.
Sorry. Authentic questions and apply their knowledge in the community.
All right, Michelle.
Authentic learning activities and engage student interest and motivation.
All right, terrific. And Jody.
I said authentic learning and active citizens.
All right, great. Thank you. So for everybody, there's at least a piece of what you're looking at that you can incorporate into your priorities as a teacher. And that's really what we're looking at. All right, now flip to page 3 with the diagram that looks like this. And we're going to do the quick city tour of what you've got in the model. And then as we work with it more, this will become really comfortable and familiar for you. We're just going to hit the high points today. Let's talk about the purpose of the model. What we are really trying to do is give teachers a very user-friendly framework for creating more of the types of days that you want to have. So when you talked about authenticity, when you talked about seeing relationships, when you talked about sparking curiosity, when you talked about aha moments, you were really talking about enabling kids to discover and take the lead more frequently, I believe, weren't you? Don't you think? And it's natural that this doesn't happen every day for us unless we get more intentional. Sorry. Unless we get more intentional and we really have some tools to use that we believe can help us. Because when we went through teacher training, for the most part, I think we were in many ways trained to think of ourselves as instructors. And what you're calling for when you look at the things in your best days and when you look at the items in your mission, you're really picturing yourselves more as facilitators, more as guiding kids toward discovery and toward leadership and empowerment, and not toward absorption of information. So we're looking for tools that will enable you to do that more easily. And then there's an extra benefit, particularly in social emotional learning, if the kids can believe that what they're doing is really important and compelling. So when you look at the model, what you're seeing in the middle, in the egg, okay, the top portion of the egg tells you where ideas can come from. So ideas can come from the authentic issue or need jumping out at you from the state of the world or community. Or you might develop a really compelling topic that comes from the kids themselves or from the curriculum, or you might be starting with the standards. Okay, so projects start a lot of different ways. And don't let anybody ever tell you that every good project originated with the kid's idea to start with. Many things come from the teacher. The key is to get the kids to have a sense of ownership and excitement early on. But many times you're going to be the one that creates the opportunity and creates the idea. The things that are on the bottom portion of the egg are the sorts of areas of student growth that we hope to address through authentic learning. So we're hoping that by starting with the curriculum standards, but also creating a really authentic opportunity, that those things will happen for kids. And those are words that I think are familiar to a lot of you. Okay, now around the outside of the model are different stages in the service learning project journey. And there is a starting point, but then after the starting point, things don't necessarily work strictly in order. And I'll talk about that a bit. Okay, so investigation is really the start of the process when it's done well. And when Kathy talked about Pam Bergen's Alzheimer's project, beginning with laying out reading material, literature books that dealt with the aging process, dealt with certain strengths and frailties of older adults, that was a way to get kids curious about aging and to invite curiosity. And so in the investigation phase, it is all about getting kids emotionally engaged in a possible topic. It is also, for some teachers, a great opportunity to engage the kids themselves in thinking about what they might want to work on. So that is a possibility. It's not a requirement. You might have something that you want to be the focus, and your job is to engage the kids' ownership and sense of curiosity. Or you might be engaging them in the search itself. The thing that I want you to circle on that page, the very most important thing to focus on in investigation, emotionally engaging entry events. Okay, we really believe in the hook, and you're good teachers and you use hooks for other units and experiences. It's not just related to service learning. But you'll see when you go through the template to design your project, we'll ask you a lot about entry events and really encourage you to spend a lot of time thinking about that. Once the initial inquiry has begun, the kids are excited, you're thinking about possibilities, that preparation and planning phase is where kids really gain the skills and knowledge that they're going to need to fulfill the task that you have in mind. So that's why we talk about becoming experts in that phase. And what they're doing is getting ready for the action phase, which you see at the bottom, where they become change makers. And for a lot of teachers, the way that this unfolds is they engage in investigation and inquiry with the kids in the first phase. And then they do identify what the action is going to be so that they know what their target is under action and implementation. And then they backfill preparation and planning. Okay. So you get excited, pick a topic under investigation, pick a way of addressing that topic or issue in action and implementation, and then backfill so that kids fully have the skills and knowledge that they need in order to be successful. Reflection is pictured in the model as if it is step 4, but really it's step everything to us. We think you should be reflecting on the investigation activities. We think you should be reflecting with the kids about how the preparation and planning is going. We think you should be reflecting with the kids about the action phase. And then you can do meta reflection so they can reflect on the reflection if you want. But we're suggesting that it needed to have a place in the picture, but it's really everywhere. It's really everywhere. And demonstration and celebration, making the learning visible, celebrating the impact. Indeed, that's last. So the things that are pictured as first and last do fall that way. The things in the 3 middle blocks are interchangeable in terms of the time order. Okay, they kind of flow back and forth. All right. This model is based on the National Service Learning Model that has been around for a very long time, which was in turn based on work by John Dewey. And this many years later, decades and decades and decades later, a lot of what John Dewey had to say remains important and valid and is incorporated here. But you'll see that there's a lot of language mixed in that comes from the PBL world as well, and also comes from things teachers have experienced and shared with us over the years. So this model is a hybrid of PBL, service learning language, and the language of real life teachers who have been successful. And it's a work in progress. There are times that we continue to add things and tweak it a little bit, but it has held up over time and been useful to people. The planning template that you'll be using to design your project takes you through a writing experience where you respond to questions in each of these areas. And I can pretty much promise you that as you develop the answers to the questions, you're going to end up with a really good project design. And I'm going to put Catherine on the spot because she has done this through the summer course and she's watched while other people did it. I'd like you to comment on the process of working with the template and reassure these folks that they're going to live.
And we have simplified it a little bit from the summer.
Yeah.
I think the big thing is to really focus on it's a growth process. And Ellen and Kathy were kind enough not to call me out at the beginning of this, but the project they were talking about being turned in 3 months late is one that I worked on because
was
it
3 months.
spanned meeting fifth graders at the end of last year and transitioning them to school. And because this school year has been so weird and different, we keep adding things to it. And the kids that are a part of it keep coming back and going, wait, we should have done this. Can we do this? And so going into it with the attitude of, it's okay that if it doesn't work the way I think it's going to work and it has to change and flux and be flexible is the best way to do it. And I think sometimes with service learning, that's hard because some of the models we look at are amazing. Like I watch Pam's project video about the Alzheimer's fidget blankets, and we had kids involved with that. And I still watch it and go, how in the world did that happen? Okay, it doesn't have to look like that in the beginning. Some of the very best service learning projects that I've seen staff members in our building do ended up nowhere near what the original project template looked like. And so I would just say, give yourself a lot of grace and know that starting small is a good thing, and it's going to evolve and grow and get really good at some point. And that may be within the confines of this current class, or you may be doing what I'm doing a couple years from now, going, hey, I want to go back to the beginning and, enhance it. So that's what I would say.
All right, thank you. There is really a terrific bank of ideas from the summer, and we'll make sure that you ultimately have access to all of them. But there are 3 of them included in your materials in Google Classroom, and we're going to ask you to choose one of those to take a look at between now and the next class. There's also a blank planning template so that as you begin to maybe get some additional ideas, you can jot some stuff down. That's a document that you can work with as a draft. There also are other planning tools in Google Classroom to help you brainstorm, because you may, when you start with an idea, you might not want to get right into the template that you'll end up using as the final plan. There are other tools that we want you to explore and use the things that are the most comfortable for you personally.
I wanted to say something about the planning template too, is that one of the reasons that we, I think, got the best work we've ever gotten in any of the classes that we've taught, and people do great work all the time, don't get me wrong, but it was clear what was going to happen in these projects. And one of the benefits to this planning template that is like in a Google Doc is that teachers were asked to think about standards, curriculum standards that could be taught in each of the key elements. So during investigation, like Pam did with her literature books, she was able to tie some curriculum standards she had to teach anyway. Then in planning and preparation, we also asked you to think about the curriculum connections. And I think the way we approached it before was a little more like, think about your project and then list how you could tie standards to it. And it might be, we can do math, we could write letters, we could do this, versus I can picture myself in class needing to do this with kids anyway, and I can tie it to this project. And so that was really a good thing. And I think the other thing is, and I want to emphasize what Catherine said, you're going to read some really good projects. And most of those people didn't think they were going to end up with, I think, as good a project in the end that they did. But the one thing we just want you to walk away from this is when I go into the classroom each day or every other day, how can, if I had to teach percentages to kids, one of the ways I might get them emotionally engaged is to look at baseball statistics. That's not service learning, but it's something authentic. Would they have been more emotionally engaged because I did that versus just learn those? So how can you tweak what you're doing already? Is there a way just to tweak it a little bit to make it more authentic, to make it more emotionally engaging, to serve somebody other than just the kids getting a grade for the work that they did.
We want to reinforce the model by showing you another project video. This is from a high school class. The level doesn't matter, but you will be able to vividly understand how important it was that this teacher had an entry event that made the topic compelling. You will be able to see the kids really becoming experts. You'll understand what kind of change they were trying to create. You'll hear them reflect on the experience, and you'll see the demonstration and celebration. So the phases of the model just jump out at you, and it's about a topic that's pretty important as well.
Can everybody see my screen now? Okay.
After we watched the entry video of my brother-in-law, we had a discussion, who knows someone that has cancer?
My grandma had actually passed away from lung cancer, so it kind of like made the project really real.
I had a friend who just a year ago died from lymphoblastic leukemia. I actually still do miss him.
We had people from the health profession come in. It wasn't these doctors talking down to students. They wanted to know about the project, and they wanted to help them discover anything that they needed to know.
It's hands-on, and it's a real situation. So they're able to look at real data, do real research about something that exists. It takes a different style than just doing textbook type learning. It was really being able to learn, research, and then also teach.
And I think that learning like this is a lot different from traditional learning because you have to find the information yourself, and that doesn't really mean have to find the page in the textbook.
In my opinion, for the first time, we learned how New Tech worked because we retained information without realizing that we were retaining the information.
Listening to our kids talk about this project, there was a level of a depth of understanding that stood out for me. They learned for a purpose that was beyond the test. They learned biology because they knew that they had this cancer awareness night, and there was this level of real adult accountability.
There was one presentation on breast cancer. There was one on colon cancer. These are very delicate subjects to talk about. And as a freshman, for them to talk about the subject matter, I was highly impressed how professional they were.
We did not expect the health literacy that we saw when we came to the event that they had.
Instead of being influenced to learn to get a good grade on a test, we were more influenced to learn to make a difference in our community and to get them more aware on how to be healthy.
We do a great job at treating cancer. We do a great job right now of identifying cancer treatment. We're still struggling with preventing it. And if we can actually, touch more people on this level in terms of their age and prevent those behaviors, those risk factors, we can change the outcomes.
I mean, kids being able to say that I did this work because I wanted to help my community. I think there's a level of learning there that can't be ignored.
And at the end of the day, the fantastic thing about this project is it's brought a product to the community to actually change people's lives.
It's grueling work. This is education. This is teaching kids biology through a real life activity, but staying true to the fact that we have to teach biology. Sarah Calloway blended those two worlds really well. She had a very engaging project that the kids were emotionally involved in creating this cancer awareness night. And at the same time, when you listen to our kids talk at that cancer awareness night, you knew that they knew a lot about biology.
Being able to connect the science behind it to the theme of cancer really made the kids want to learn about it. They wanted to know more. They asked questions that I never asked, that I had to look up because I didn't know. We learned together. It was pretty amazing.
Cells Gone Wild wasn't something that we took out of a textbook or out of a leaflet or a syllabus. It's something that we really co-developed with Meridian and the instructors here.
And one of the things that we're intentionally trying to have kids learn is how to collaborate. So they saw the project be developed and implemented in their classroom in a very collaborative environment. Whether the community, my tech participated in bringing this together, business partner, Mid-Michigan Health, and the school, and it all came together to create a lot of excitement, a tremendous learning environment for kids.
When you set the expectation high and you keep them engaged with, a realistic topic or an authentic audience, they rise to the occasion.
In traditional schooling, I feel like I wouldn't be as engaged because I feel like if we had this project in traditionally, like we wouldn't have like the connection that Mrs. Calloway made.
But he eventually passed away, which happened during the project, which was, it was awful. But I think it really drove them to finish strong in the project, and it gave them this real life connection to how close cancer can affect someone in the community, and it just kind of brought out all of those raw and rare emotions that you don't normally see in a classroom.
Hopefully you can see how that is both PBL and service learning. It for sure is an authentic project experience that PBL has endorsed, but because it was meant to serve other people through a prevention emphasis, it's service learning as well. We're going to put you back in a really quick breakout room. You probably will be paired with somebody different. We're not quite sure, but probably. Talk about two things. One, what did the video reinforce for you that you think is an important aspect of high quality service learning? What jumped out at you that you would want to incorporate in your own plan? And the second would be, what's another takeaway from today's session besides whatever you observe from this video? What's something else that you're taking away from today? We will bring you back in 6 minutes and then close as a large group. All right, see you soon. All right, how were your conversations? All good? All right. Somebody share with us one observation about the video. What was something that you thought was reinforced that was important? What'd you like about that?
Well, in our group, we noticed, not noticed, but we felt like one of the strongest messages or ties through that project was the connectiveness, just how connected they were to the project and to their connection to how cancer has affected them personally as well as the teacher.
Absolutely. And there's a way to establish a personal connection to most any topic. And that's one of the things we encourage folks to think about as part of the investigation phase, one of the entry events. Any other observations that you'd like to make?
Can you say something that would be a big difference between a typical science fair and what this was? What would be different about it besides the connection?
We talked about the level of involvement of the community members and the partnership that not only came within the classroom, but from all the people who came outside of the classroom. Right. And I don't think in a typical science fair, you normally get that level of engagement. Although I gotta be honest, I don't know, because I was never a huge science girl, so.
Well, and I think that's a really good point, is that there are some kids who embrace science fairs. And I'm guessing that there were a higher percentage of kids who thought of themselves as scientists this time. But when you talk about the community involvement, not only were they providing expertise to the kids, but they were receiving information and products that they could use in their setting. So it was a good partnership.
It was also non-competitive, which sets it apart for sure.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of competition, though, anytime that some of you non-science folks want to hear this story, there's a good anecdote about my involvement in science fairs. I can tell you that my father did a very good job on my project. Anyway, going forward, why am I not seeing them? There we go.
Go ahead.
In terms of next week's session, the main things that we're hoping are that you will take a look at one of the examples from last summer, take a look at the blank template, get yourselves signed up on the participant list if you haven't already. feel free to jump onto that list of project possibilities and write down ideas that come to you. And just because you record an idea does not mean we're expecting you to follow through on that particular item, but sometimes it gives other people ideas as well. So just help us continue to build that.
We were going to give you a tour of the Google Classroom, but we don't want to hold you. We're past time now. So when you get into the Google Classroom, there will be different sections in there. You've maybe already seen it. There are some things that are assignments, which just means like your participant log or your contact information. But there will be an exit ticket there that just has 2 short questions that we'd like you to react to and submit that before Monday. In the class sessions, you'll see session 1, and all the materials, the handouts, and any videos we showed or meant to show if we'd had time will be in there from now until whenever. So sometimes there may be things that you want to use with your own class. And I will also, we've recorded this session, so I'll upload it to session 1 as well. And then there's a section, I'm trying to think if there was anything I really wanted to say. Oh, in assignments, or if you're taking it for Ashland credit, the instructions to register for Ashland credit are there. And then there's examples of both 3 of the projects that were done this past summer and the model projects that we've had over a number of years. But if you have any questions, I'll try to, in a follow-up email, check your Gmail from now on, because that's probably how I'll communicate, or at least try to. And if you have any questions, I'll try to make sure I go into what's in the Google Classroom in that email. But don't hesitate to call us, email us if you have any questions at all.
Yes, we are truly available, and the day of the week doesn't matter. The time of day doesn't matter.
Because we aren't going out.
We're accessible, so feel free. Everybody feeling like they landed in a good place. You are where you want to be, and it's going to meet your needs, I hope. And if you've got concerns, please talk it through with us. We'd love to know whatever questions you might have. All right. Sorry, we're a few minutes over, but we will not do that again if we can help it. Take care.
Bye.
See you next week.